It's locked. I owe you my life. What little of it is mine. Now let's get to the librarian. He'll help us. Please, stay with me.
Who is this?
If you're going to kill me, just get it over with.
Shut up! If I actually wanted you dead, I would have given you to Dellinger earlier. Now walk slowly forward, ahead of me, and do not turn around. You are part of something that you cannot understand. There is more going on tonight than these cameras can capture. You took something that belongs to me. You called this interloper and brought them into our republique. And I will find out why. Look at me. Honest eyes do not hide. Murray Azali Prideaux, July 14th at 0158. Dissection of a precal. Okay. State your name.
Hope.
State your name.
390H.
Very good. Quit shaking. I'm going to ask you some questions in French. I find your English to be too clever. Des mots habiles peuvent camoufler la vérité. Tu sais ce qui arrive quand on ne dit pas la vérité. Qui t'a donné le journal de Zaguerre?
Je ne peux pas vous la dire, madame.
Menteuse! Qui t'a appris cette arrogance? Est-ce que ce traître a un nom? Comment est-ce qu'il t'aide? Qui a piraté notre système? Qui a attaqué nos prises-rack? Qui t'a donné l'ordre d'attaquer nos prises-rack?
Je ne peux pas vous la dire, madame.
Après tout ce que nous avons fait pour toi,
You watch me.
we look out for you.
You lock me up.
We protect you.
From what?
Yourself. The world beyond those walls is dead. And the ones who killed it would not hesitate to do the same to us. We survive only because they do not know we exist. I pray you have not doomed us all, child. What do they know? What do they know about our republic? savent-ils sur notre république?
Everything. Whatever you do to me, they'll be watching.
You are late. I found a precard here who has lost her way. There was no need for that. This one, I believe, will go quietly.
She'll call you back.
Stars and our hands are untied. Will you believe me that I love you? Or would a fool have been to beg you again and again to believe me that I want you? And now we both can see. I see you in my dreams. There you are. Street.
Recently, the children in Metamorphosis have become more brazen in their attempts to take things from the Prizrak. Surely, this was Zager's influence.
Got him. Zager killed in firefight with Prizrak. The depravity of this man was boundless. Best to remove the comments section for the online edition, and change "shot dead by Prizrak" to "killed in firefight by Prizrak." This way it suggests he was given a sporting chance. When the surveillance video of this day surfaces, and it will, it's going to require major surgery if they want it to look like justice.
It's locked. We'll find a way through. What's yours is mine.
The girl has found one of the banned books. The Overseer has banned many books inside of Metamorphosis. As the poor librarian upstairs once said, it is better to ban a book than to burn it. Talk about taking lemons and making lemonade. I wonder if there are more books like this one lying around.
We need a thumbprint. I don't know whose. I found some pepper spray.
I once spent some time stuffed in a locker. This may surprise you, but I wasn't very popular in high school. A good reminder: use the cameras to see what's in the next room.
It's locked. Stuck. This spot looks good. They won't find me in here.
The Prizrak waged their campaign against Zager from this very room. The following conversation was recorded 2 months ago.
Listen, Prizrak, calling the man a menace doesn't give him the credit he deserves. Put another team on scrubbing through the footage.
I will, sir. Though so far the camera network hasn't been terribly effective.
Zager's a human being, not some phantom. He casts a shadow like the rest of us. And I'm giving you more than you should need to find him. Now, should that prove too difficult for you?
No, sir. I understand. Watch your step.
Recent.
Arming.
So I went back recently and noticed that on March 15th, 2011, I had wrote down the first kind of initial ideas of this game that I was initially just calling, for some stupid reason, Project Binary. And it basically had, a lot of the same kind of core elements that we have in Republic today. The importance of character performance and facial performance on mobile, and really just trying to push the boundary. I was initially just calling, for some stupid reason, Project Binary. And it basically had, a lot of the same kind of core elements that we have in Republic today. The importance of character performance and facial performance on mobile, and really just trying to push the boundaries in terms of narrative, and players have this emotional connection with these characters.
I've known Ryan for more than 10 years. We've been good friends, and even when he lived in Japan, we stayed in touch for a long time. And when we moved back to the States, we started to meet up regularly and talk about his work, what was going on. And then I got a phone call one time, and he had just come to the conclusion that he was going to start his own game studio. And he said, he asked if I wanted to come along for the ride.
I says, Ryan, the economy's bad. Don't do it. He says, Dad, I'm burnt out. I want to do my own thing. I says, wait. You're not even 30 yet. Just wait. Well, he didn't listen to his dad. He just went ahead and did it.
And I was just thinking about what I'm going to do next, and I really wasted no time. I teamed up with a guy named Matt Brown, or Mabro, as we like to call him, and he and I started putting together this prototype of this game called Republic.
I applied just about every studio in Seattle. I sent him an email. I found his personal email because I found his personal website. I was like, what are the chances, you know? Ryan gave me an art test, and I spent about 10 days of panic attacks and, obsessively working, not sleeping.
I remember the first time going into Ryan's apartment, and that's where we worked out of, and there was just one long desk, and I sat sandwiched between Paulo and Ryan right in the middle, and we just kind of squeezed in, and it's like as much as any startup could ever be, right? Working out of a bedroom on one desk together.
Human Condition was the prototype that really was trying to explore a lot of the core elements of the game, namely navigating hope throughout a 3D environment with just simple mouse clicks, as we're trying to emulate what would just be a simple tap on mobile. We wanted to experiment with the ideas of viewing from different surveillance cameras that you can then either manually switch to, or that as you're moving hope throughout the environment, they start to auto switch, like those classical survival horror games. And so, using Unity, we were doing anything and everything we could to, under budget, as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, to try to get just the core concept playable.
We didn't have animator or anything, so we had store-bought animation set that we were using, and things were popping in and out, and it was just hilarious, but it was working, right? And the whole point of it really was to test out if we had a great game idea and to see if it was actually fun.
It was not really a game. It was more like experimenting different game designs, trying to figure out what could be like the best game that we can do for like touch devices. So it was really fun because it was like this kind of like humble beginnings. It was just like at the beginning it was just Ryan and I crunching together, like trying to figure out like what was the best ideas for the game.
Ezra actually started right after me, probably at the same time, and he was still working at home because we didn't have room for him because we didn't have enough desks at that time. And he just took the reign and just started making things happen. He just hole up and just built stuff, bang stuff out, and come back, and we're just wowed by how much progress he was making.
From the first day, you could just the whole vision of Republic really started to come together when Ezra came onto the team.
But Ezra being just this prolific creative guy was just all night he was going. He never stopped.
We went to one of our industry colleague friends, and we had a very sobering discussion with him. He basically said, I get all of what you want to do, but in this day and age, that's impossible. If you want to do this type of game in the budget that you're talking about, you're going to have to sell your soul. That's the way that the business works. And nobody's going to give you this money so you can then walk away with this IP that you've created and then do what you want with it. And we're thinking, okay, we're running out of money. What are we going to do? And I remember specifically looking on my iPhone and just looking at the news, and this was like the day after Double Fine just went nuclear on Kickstarter.
Prepping for GDC was really the first time that we were going to start talking to people outside the small core group. So we were talking to other game developers, we were talking to journalists.
We had a lot more people. We're hustling and bustling, and we were working, I don't know exactly, because it never stopped.
The team is crunching like crazy, and we knew about 2 weeks before GDC that we weren't going to do everything that we wanted to do. We weren't going to be able to bring that polished, high-quality trailer and launch our Kickstarter at GDC. And I think in retrospect, it turned out okay. The first press interview I didn't think went very well. The guy didn't seem very interested in our concept, and that gave me a lot of pause.
And Matt Brown, outsider dev, got me a little too drunk on my first GDC. But anyways, I didn't feel good, first of all, and I had to really use the bathroom. And Ryan is talking to two journalists. And mind you, this is early on when I'm still trying to make a good impression on Ryan, Like, we don't have, full-time positions yet. Everything's in limbo. We're all crazy. But I can't hold this. I need to get in there. And I had to walk through the room where he's doing the interviews and showing the game, into the bathroom, and, they had no fans in this bathroom. This is how old the building was. The look of terror on my face when I realized that. I was just like, I'm gonna have to be in here for an hour, I'm gonna have to open up these vents, start fanning, and just sit here and run the water, hope it absorbs the air somehow or something. I did that, I was just trying to be like super, kind of open the door, slide out, and just kind of slink through the room and never see these people again, hopefully ever.
The good news is that we started off pretty bad, and then after that, the press seemed really, really interested in the concept, and there's a lot of encouragement. And just showing 2 screenshots and saying, yes, this is actually running on the iPhone, and yes, we're going to ship this next year, you can already see people getting really excited about the idea. April 9th, that was the day that I was going to get the whole Kickstarter page ready to go live on that following morning. And I thought it'd be done by maybe 10 p.m. or something like that, and I was up all night getting that page perfect. I felt like, this is such a polished Kickstarter presentation. We've got all the answers for anybody's questions. People are going to love this really ambitious AAA project. When we go live on the morning of April 10th, we're going to make Kickstarter history.
Well, I remember the day that the Kickstarter launched. I congratulated Ryan, and I thought that it looked great. And next thing I hear from him, he's like, yeah, that wasn't a very good day. So finally I texted him and I was like, please just let me help, give me the passwords to everything. And he finally gave me the passwords to Facebook and Twitter and the Kickstarter page.
When the Kickstarter first week didn't start off as fast as we anticipated, then we were slowly becoming demoralized and we weren't sure how this was going to end up, because in essence, Kickstarter was our second attempt to get outside objective feedback on what was going on. So we had a great GDC experience, and then we went into this lull with Kickstarter.
I still look back, it was one of the more exciting months in my life. It was like a Super Bowl that lasted for a month. And the excitement and, those disappointing days when it did $800 and we got to get to 500,000 in 30 days. How are we going to get there?
I'm sleep deprived. I'm super stressed out. We've just been crunching literally for 4 months straight. Actually before that too. We're talking maybe 5 or 6 months. My personal life is in a total mess, and I need help. And I one of the things I didn't do, again, because I expected our Kickstarter project to go very well, is that I didn't make a plan for the 30-day Kickstarter campaign. I made a plan for the day 1, thinking that it was going to go well. It took me about a week to wake up to this whole thing, but thanks to some friends like Billy Berghammer and Selena Rodriguez, I finally started to understand that, I need some help. I think one of the worst times in the entire Kickstarter campaign was actually the second day. The second day was, we had this plan as a team that we're going to come together, and we were crunching for a while, and we decided to take a day off or two, and we decided to meet at a pizza place for lunch.
So we get there, order some pizza. It doesn't matter that it's good pizza, because it's going to taste bad anyway, because that's the way it really was. It was just like, okay. And we're like, okay, we need to figure out a game plan.
Okay, we have 3 weeks left. We wanted to do daily updates. Okay, how many screenshots? We have like 20, 30? No, we have 1 screenshot that hasn't been shown yet. Can we get any more? No, we can't get any more screenshots. Awesome.
Ryan was kind of obsessed with NeoGAF, so a lot of his comments had to do with something that he read on NeoGAF, and a lot of things that he was reacting to had a lot to do with things that he read on NeoGAF. So I decided to dabble.
What can you tell me about NeoGAF?
NeoGAF. Nothing. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Every morning, it just became my obsession to check NeoGAF, and I would send Ryan things that I saw on NeoGAF, and he's like, who are you right now?
After some of the announcements, some of the things that we were doing, we started gaining more traction. The Keep Hope Alive thing, I think, helped a little bit, but when we announced PC, we saw a big spike there. When we announced David Hayter and Jennifer Hale, that's when we really saw a really big push.
once we made the Jennifer Hale and David Hayter announcement, like that's when all like the fans came out and like represented. That was a really good moment. I mean, I felt like that definitely was one of those moments like you just like, can't forget, where you felt like you were actually like there was actually like a chance.
I think that's the time we just like started to going up every day, and that's probably how we got to the end finish line.
I just looked away from my iPad for like 5 minutes and looked back, and we hit the goal. And I'm getting choked up right now, but I lost it. That was probably one of the most exciting things I've ever been a part of.
When we finally hit our Kickstarter goal, I think we became like a real studio. We had a real game.
We actually did it. We did it. We made a Kickstarter. It worked. We raised over $500,000. People like us, you know?
It was probably one of the best days of my life to see that my son had reached that goal that he set, which was pretty aggressive, 500,000. And I think during that month, Ryan was probably second guessing that goal, which of course he achieved.
I knew that a lot of the challenge that we had faced, a lot of those late nights, a lot of the stress and the fights, and that was good that we went through there. But I also had the sneaking suspicion that we're going to go through a lot more moving forward. But I was still excited about that next chapter, about actually making the game.
Tonight,
Camouflage is a shithole.
It's a total shithole.
Well, up until recently, we had periodic power losses.
My first day here, I walked past the building because I thought it was abandoned.
I think homeless people come in at night, sometimes use the bathroom, but I'm not exactly sure.
For the first 6 months, the urinal didn't flush, it more just stirred.
But we love it. It's our shithole. And I've come to love the mold in the back.
I think yesterday we had a chair war. Like people were missing chairs and stealing other people's chairs.
It's a little volatile, but I would say overwhelmingly camouflage that's where we shine, is our spirit. Like you come in the first day, you will be family.
There's a lot of, fun moments, and there's like party times, and there's like stupid jokes we all made together, and it really feels like we are a family here.
I think going into episode 1 is really trying to take a deep breath, have a big context for appreciating what all the hard work the team has gone through. I think we reached the point where we can say we have a kick-ass game.
A prototype is a very sacred period of time when you decide and figure out what makes your game fun. Now, if we were a $10 million project or $5 million project or whatever, I think we probably would have spent twice or 3 times as long in prototype to understand what the game really is before we go and pitch it to whoever we need to get the money for it, right?
There was a rush to move from a crucial prototype phase to a proof of concept phase in order to introduce Republic to Kickstarter.
Ultimately, I think it was smart that we exited prototype, but we're paying for it right now, trying to ship episode 1. We are literally weeks away from going to alpha and then beta, and we are still figuring out what the game is, and it's extremely scary time right now.
We had intended to actually put out essentially what were 10 episodes, or 10 episodes worth of content.
I think it started with everybody's gut reaction, realizing given the amount of stuff we need to do, there's not enough time.
We kind of went over what the actual schedule would be for production and what that would mean for the milestones we'd have to hit.
And we have all this content, all these levels to build, like design the levels, construct the levels.
We quickly realized when we started to compare the amount of time we needed to what we had already done, that it was going to be impossible.
It's sort of amazing to me to think that we were ever even considering having 10 episodes. I mean, right out of the gate, it's just so insane.
Because this is my first time on my own having a company, having to make these really big decisions that impact not only the creative team but the entire company, is that it's very dangerous to have somebody like me on top, because I'm in a chronic, optimistic person. I underestimate everything, right? I underestimate how much money it's going to take, how much time it's going to take.
His philosophy, as far as I've always understood it too, is that he doesn't want to be constrained by the technical limitations of the technical side of things. So he doesn't even want to really hear what we can and can't do. He just wants to just say what he wants, and we have to figure out how we can get there. Because we have such a young group of folks here too, I think a lot of folks don't have necessarily the background to say yes, we can do this, we can't do that. So it actually works out, I think, to his favor too, also because these young people are very motivated, very talented, very hardworking, and they're willing to just push and push and push.
We really didn't have a staffing issue. People are throwing themselves at the project, could be students right out of school, interns, professionals, just trying to be a part of this experience.
I was coming in really nervous, I thought it was going to be super formal, but these guys are super chill, and they were just so this is what we want you to do you want to do it? And I was yeah.
Since I arrived somewhat late in the project, a lot of the core foundation of the game's code base was already there, so I've been doing lots of bug fixing and helping make tools to help designers.
We've had people helping us out in Japan, in Canada, here in the United States, all across the country.
The most difficult thing about making this game is because there's nothing else we can look to for inspiration or guidance or reference to figure out how to solve a lot of the problems that we encounter when we're trying to design this game.
It makes a vocabulary of discussing it difficult because there's not a lot of other games you can point to and say, hey, it's like this. You can talk about your inspirations, but you don't have a way of discussing the features and systems and, in general, the types of experiences you're intending to create, because it is something completely new, completely different.
Switching between cameras instead of actually controlling a character with the camera fixed behind them has brought up some interesting design issues.
Where the player does not directly control Hope. The player is not Hope. So she does not act directly based on the player input, but kind of interprets it and works with the player. And that's been a challenge to try to convey that and also make it so Hope has very believable reactions to when the player directs her to do something.
Hope has one term, she's what? And I use that anytime she needs to do a take. So she'll always turn the same way.
Yeah, you might notice a bunch of repeats. People who look very closely will find repeats of animations here and there.
POI is kind of our system for giving players more details about the story and the world that they're traveling through. On a development side, it's a huge task. It's a multidisciplinary feature that requires art, it requires code, it requires a lot of designer work.
We are essentially letting the players slow reveal, all the cool things that the game has to offer, from network abilities to new rooms, new items, new cool ways of experiencing the world, and really just letting the player just dig deeper and deeper, really enrich their overall gaming experience by just seeing the world in new and interesting ways.
Well, I didn't really have much of a game background, but I do have, somewhat extensive experience in Hollywood. We just kind of lock ourselves in a room for a weekend with coffee and just back and forth, and we get up, we get a moment of inspiration, we write something on the board, and we sit and we stew on it, and then Monday morning I'm feeling pretty good about what we got done, and Ryan comes in and he turns the whole table over and says, all those ideas sucked, let's go again.
Back in 2008, on an unannounced project, I was a director of an episodic game at one point that was canceled. And so this is something that's been ruminating in my head for the past 5 years. And it is kind of nice that we've returned to that idea.
We were writing a really great game and telling a really great story. But as you know, the story is about Hope, and it's sort of Hope's journey from incarceration to freedom. And we have such, I think, great supporting characters, and we've got really great, awesome voice talent, to play these supporting characters, that we tried to maybe open up the world a bit too much, and focus on their stories and their journeys. And what we were left with was something that was, I think, really fascinating, and with a larger budget, maybe next time around. But it was just a bit too unwieldy for us, I think.
I think one of the reasons why game narrative fails oftentimes is because game studios are tasked with creating an 8 to 10 hour epic story, and meanwhile, like Hollywood is focusing on 90-minute to maybe 200-minute epics, and they can go over it and in one sitting check and see where the story's making sense and where it's not. Where in games you have to do that over the course of days sometimes. Once we saw that this really cool model and people getting excited about episodic content done right, was when we started thinking, hey, we can maybe do something like that. And so now with our shift to episodic, we can just focus on like a 90 to 2 hour experience each time, see where things aren't making sense and fix them, and then move on to the next thing.
We've got a strong first episode, and I think it ends in just the right way. It'll leave you wanting more, hopefully. But yeah, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
One of the bigger stressors, I think, on myself and Jeff has been going into these meetings and pitching Republic to various people or just friends and asking them how they would monetize our game in a way that is fair to us and to the consumer. And you oftentimes hear what's your ARPU strategy or whatever? Like, how are you going to monetize a maximum amount of money out of people? How are you going to get your whales? How are you going to get the people that are going to spend 6 figures into your game?
A lot of us came from hardcore game background and then doing premium games and then console games, right? So when it comes to monetization on iOS, everybody have a very negative attitude. The moment I start mentioning monetization, there are people shutting their ears, wave their hands, hide in the bathroom.
Ryan and frankly most of the team had really strong feelings that we should not have many in-app purchases, but it was all based on the reasoning of the player's experience. We didn't want the player to experience that we were trying to nickel and dime them.
It's also very difficult for us to come up with something that fits into the story and the fiction of what to sell, because we cannot sell coins or mini upgrade weapons.
As we wanted to have some sort of informal advisory board, let's find people who have very special niches of expertise, people we trust, people we know, friends of ours, who we can hold us accountable on a quarterly basis. We can go to them, report progress, report what projections are. They can ask us really tough questions. Including people who are not associated with the games industry, who can ask us really bold and objective questions.
We were really scrambling around for about a year and a half or so, trying to figure out how we're going to monetize this game. And again, it wasn't until we saw what Telltale was doing with the episodic model on iOS, where we started, the light bulb started kind of come up.
Ryan is really particularly adamant that we focus on player experience and that there are enough people who are out there who really will feel free to pay up front if we can deliver what we promise on the quality side.
I think from an outside perspective, I think it's safe to assume that episode 1 is the thing that we've been working on for the past 2 years, and it's finally going to come out, and now it's on to something fresh and new, where it's actually almost the exact opposite of that.
We've built out actually pretty much most of those kind of core spaces, because the original idea was that we were going to have all 5 episodes kind of out around the same time.
After all this crazy stuff that can happen during during the development of the game, we got to that point that the game's getting close, the ship quality.
We nailed down how to do photorealistic lighting. We learned how to create the best performance possible and get 30 frames per second with effects going on and reflections on the floor. That's mind-blowing, okay? That's the console stuff. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen on mobile, but it did happen, and it's going to happen real soon. If you're watching this, it has happened.
And you just suddenly see, rather than a couple things trickling in every once in a while, then something like entire rooms are coming online. Every day you see something large, changes coming into focus.
Going from episode 1 into episode 2 is something that, to me, is okay, now we're looking way back into the production, and we're finishing what we started. And then I think when we get to episode 3, even though that's already blocked out and we've got a lot of concept and a lot of the art is already working and the design system's already figured out, that seems like a really new and fresh challenge for me.
At this point, it's going to be optimizations. It's going to be getting more bang out of our buck.
As we get closer, it's very surreal. I don't know what's going to happen.
And the more the team sees every day the progress of that, then the enthusiasm really starts to bubble over. And then, of course, when we come up actually to ship, we're going to be on pins and needles for sure to see what happens in the end.
you.